What's going on, everybody? We're back with another class setup, and today we're going to be talking about the LC10, Warzone's newest SMG that came out with Cold War Season 2. Since Season 2 came out, it's been kind of a mess, trying to figure out what attachments really work, which ones are the best to run, what you really want to carry on your guns. The agency suppressor, still almost a week in, has not been fixed. Definitely do not run the agency suppressor on any of your guns right now, guys. You might be able to get away with it with an SMG just because you're more up close, but I really wouldn't recommend it. They're just better builds to use. And the FARA and the LC10 are two that I've been trying to figure out. And I think I've found the perfect build now for the LC10. Now, it's not going to be better than the Mac 10. It's not the next, DMR meta where the LC10 is the only thing that you can run. However, it is a lot of fun to use. It's a nice change of pace. If you want to switch it up and still be able to compete, it definitely hangs with the meta. It's just not going to be the #1 gun that you have to run. And although Raven Software, like Activision, they like to do their shadow buffs and their shadow nerfs and their tweaking of everything, I gotta say, one thing that I do respect is that we're not getting another DMR zone meta. They're at least keeping all of the guns balanced. They're just messing with what the attachments do. And as long as they keep them in the place that they are now, and we know exactly what the attachments do, and they do match what they say in the game, then it'll be well worth it long term. However, as always, if you enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like, and if you want to make sure that you can come back and watch a video and know every time I'm posting one, smash that sub button and click the bell to turn notifications on. One thing I always like to do is include the recoil patterns for you guys. That way you know how to correct your own recoil to laser people, but also you know why I'm using which foregrip that I am. And once again, we're not using the Field Agent foregrip. We're actually using the very last speed grip. It's the SBOD, I believe. Hold on, it's a SFOD speed grip is what we are using. So on the right, we have the Field Agent. In the middle, we have the speed, and on the left, we have the standard recoil pattern. Now, the recoil pattern was a little bit off on this one. I feel like I just kind of messed up my early shot, and so it made it go a little bit higher. You can tell that vertically, though, they are pretty much the same between the Field Agent and the speed grip, and as well as like bullet tightness. You might have, a little bit more spread on it, but it's really not bad. You don't really gain a ton of vertical recoil control between either one. I think you're getting like 10 or 15% compared to not having the grip, but really it's the spread. You can see how much tighter these are and kind of how loose those can be. So if you're going to be using a grip, I would definitely use the speed. Now, I say that because you're getting just about the same exact recoil control as far as vertical goes and horizontal, but you're not losing firing movement speed or ADS firing move speed, whereas on the SFOD, you're getting sprinting moving speed, and there's only a small penalty to your total movement speed, which I've never really noticed. And if that's only like when you're crouch walking and stuff, it's really not that big of a deal. Then if you're going and you're strafe shooting and you're trying to kill people and you're doing different things, you're not going to have that penalty that you're going to feel on the Field Agent foregrip. So if your recoil pattern is pretty much identical as far as like vertical goes, that one did go a little bit higher, but that's still only like a fraction of a percent, and your bullet spread is just about as tight, it wouldn't make really any sense to me to run anything besides the SFOD speed grip, because you have far less penalties and a higher upside. It's just one of those things that, once again, Call of Duty has almost everything labeled correctly, but they do miss some things and don't really put the right stuff in as well. I personally also don't run a muzzle. Maybe if you did want to run a muzzle, you could switch it up a little bit. I don't really think that it has that much recoil. That's one of the things about this gun that I think makes it so strong. The fact that it literally has such minimal recoil and is very easy to correct makes it so that you don't really need to run the muzzle. Agency suppressors are broken right now, so there's no need to be running that. So it allows you to free up a slot to run a stonk, run run a different barrel, go ahead and put a laser on it. If you don't like the iron sights, you can go ahead and put a sight on it. I don't really think it needs one. I think the iron sights are really good. They're kind of like the MAC-10, where it's not necessary to run a optic on it, but that also comes down to personal preference. It's to each their own. If that's something that you want to throw on the gun, then, you know, you're more than welcome to. All right, now that we covered the recoil pattern, it's time to go ahead and talk about the overall build of the gun. Unfortunately, True Game Data hasn't updated their stats on the guns yet, so I can't really show you guys exact percentages. But through my testing and my playing and how these attachments work on different guns, I've kind of lined up my build through that. Personally, for the barrel, I like the reinforced heavy. The Ranger is going to have a higher bullet velocity, but it's going to lack a little bit in range, kind of like it did on the Bullfrog previously. And I think with the Ranger, it just gives you a little bit of extra recoil that's not necessary to have to deal with. If you want the higher bullet velocity and you don't want the little bit of extra range, then the Ranger is definitely a viable second. But personally, I just don't think the bullet velocity is worth the extra recoil, so I prefer the reinforced heavy. The task force is all right. The stray speed is kind of minimal. I don't feel like the damage and the bullet velocity is really worth the extra recoil once again. So for me, the reinforced heavy is a sweet spot, but it's kind of a personal preference, to each their own thing. The stray speed is kind of nice on the task force, but I felt like I was losing some fights with the task force versus the reinforced heavy, so I went back to the reinforced heavy. Once again, the agency suppressor obviously is nerfed right now where it shouldn't be used. I don't think that there's enough recoil on the gun with the reinforced heavy to justify running a muzzle, so I don't run a muzzle right now. I think when the agency suppressor finally is buffed back to what it's supposed to be, I will swap out either the laser or honestly the underbarrel, just because it's nice to have, but with the reinforced heavy, it's not completely necessary. More than likely, I'll leave it and I'll get rid of the laser, but that's gonna be one of those personal preference things. Do you want the hip fire? Do you want the little bit of extra recoil control? Just kind of what are you looking for? Then as far as the lasers go, I'm running the 5 milliwatt laser. I personally prefer the 5 milliwatt laser over the target designator. Now the target designator is supposed to give you a little bit of extra effective damage range. However, according to J God, I'll link his video right here for you guys if you want to watch it on the MAC-10. As far as it goes with the MAC-10, it only gives you about 2% more range, which works out to like literally like 1 meter to 2 meters, which is kind of irrelevant, you know what I mean, where it's not that necessary. And the 5 milliwatt overall gives the best hip fire accuracy. So I would rather have the extra hip fire accuracy versus the 1 or 2 extra meters that the target designator is going to give you, especially on an SMG where I'm going to be in your face anyways. The range really isn't quite as necessary. And we're also getting effective damage range on the reinforced heavy. So you're already sacrificing the Ranger with his bullet velocity to go with the reinforced for the little bit of extra damage range. So then you don't really need those 2 meters on the target designator either. So the sweet spot for me is a 5 milliwatt laser. As far as stocks go, I ended up switching to the combat stock on the LC10. Now previously on most of my guns, I had always gone with the Raider stock. I like the Raider stock because I don't really worry about hip firing that much, or I hadn't been before. And I like the sprint to fire time. However, the SAS combat stock now gives you a little bit of extra strafe speed. So I'm sacrificing the sprint to fire, but I'm also gaining strafe speed now. And strafe speed is more important to me because I definitely like the bunny hop around corners and that kind of stuff. And I'm not necessarily like sprinting into my shots. And you also only lose about half of your hip fire accuracy. The Raider stock absolutely destroys your hip fire accuracy. You lose about 30% on your hip fire accuracy, whereas on the combat you only lose, I think it's about 15%. And then there is a give and take on the shoot while moving speed. I believe the combat stock only gives about 4% and the Raider stock gives 14%. But once again, if I'm getting that extra strafe speed with the combat stock, I don't really need to be running the Raider anymore. As far as the ammunition goes, I run the 52 round mag. It's hands down the best mag for the gun. The 55 round takes forever to reload. I don't know the exact time on it, but throw in the 55 and throw in the 52, and trust me, you will not be running any other mag on this gun. It just takes way too long with the 55. I'll sacrifice the 3 bullets and a little bit of ADS time to make sure that I can swap that mag out really quickly. And then, I mean, as far as underbarrels go, we just talked about that in the recoil, so you guys already know, the breakdown on this. Hands down, SFOD is the way to go, in my opinion. The field agent just isn't really worth it on this gun, and probably not any other SMGs. I'm gonna have to go through, and as I make each video, I will be testing it for each gun to make sure. But right now, I would definitely highly recommend the SFOD speed grip. I would say that if you're gonna just like run 3 attachments that you have to have, I would say that would be the 52, the underbarrel, and then the reinforced heavy. If you want to go like an optic instead of the laser, if you want to go an optic instead of the stock, maybe like a muzzle and an optic, and get rid of those 2, kind of tweak around and play with the build. But myself personally, this is hands down the best build that I found for the gun so far. As I keep playing and more stats come available, if there's a different build that ends up being better, I'll update it for you guys and let you know. But right now, if you're looking to have some fun, you want to switch it up, you want to use a different gun, I would highly recommend trying the LC10 and try out this build. And as always, whether you're a recurring sub or you're new to the channel, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you're smashing a like. And if you're not a sub yet, make sure you hit that sub button, you click on the bell to turn on notifications for every time I'm posting a video.